Uh, Today we got Coach Heath with us. Coach Heath is currently a free agent football coach. He's also an assistant basketball coach at Archbishop Hoban here in Ohio. And more importantly, he does a lot of video and editing work for Coach Sheffer and is looking to help other coaches with video and editing work that he does and for logos, video edits, and pretty much any other online editing you kind of need done. Coach, thanks for coming on, and how are you doing?
I'm good. It's been a busy weekend here at the Heath compound. Putting in a new studio for future projects. Working on a couple of things for a couple of other coaches as well. It's an exciting time. Needless to say, without being on the sidelines, we got some time, and I still got some energy and some interest. So trying to make the most of it.
Now, Coach is a former offense coordinator, but before we get in the offense stuff, I did want to talk to him about some of the editing stuff because we both do editing. You do editing for Coach Sheffer, whose podcast I'm on frequently. You just redesigned his logo, which I will say looks pretty cool. Kind of how did you get into that, and then kind of what are the main things you do editing wise?
Well, let me rewind here. So, I found myself laid off from a job during the holidays, and I thought I can go out and do my own thing as a contractor. So that got me started with I'm going to build a business. So I knew I needed to build, in order to build a business, I needed to build a brand, have a logo, all those things. And I've just really carried over that business experience over into coaching. Today, coaches, whether you want to be an assistant all your life, you still want to leave a legacy. If you want to build it up to being a head coach, you need to build a brand. That's the way it is these days. The interview process allows you to go in maybe an hour, maybe longer in some places, but usually it's pretty quick. If people are going to want to get to know you, first thing they're going to do is they're going to go on Google and they're going to try to find as much as they can about you. If they come across something and you've got a nice brand built and they watch videos and they see who you really are, that's an added bonus to you outside of the time that you're actually sitting down and face-to-face with members of a board or boosters, whoever's on that committee. You have a leg up. At least I think so. It's worked for me personally. But that's really the heart of where everything came from, was that I went and took the business model that I had, and one of the first things I thought of is perception. I could have 0 clients, but I make it appear as if I have 100. I mean, that's really the game of it's a game of optics, and that's the game that you got to play today. If you want to be like someone else, you got to be better than them. But if you want to be different, that's the way to go. So, my biggest thing is trying to find guys' personalities, trying to build something around it. Even callers. I mean, even, you like a team or whatever, because you're going to invest in that brand and in that logo. If I'm able to understand what your likes are, you're going to really, it's you. What else can I say? It's you. And that's really what we're trying to do here. So many coaches tell me I don't have time for it. You can record 30 minutes. I don't have the equipment for it. Well, I can give you sound advice on what you need to do that. We do branding, we do the logo, we do everything for coaches, because we are a brotherhood, and whether we like it or some guys you like more than others, but we're all in it together for all the right reasons. And I think sharing resources, sharing knowledge is only going to make the game better, and that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's one of the things I talk about in my classes, business teachers, branding. Like, where are you marketing? I mean, and I do a lot with like logos and variety of my classes, my global business, my business sports, even my Microsoft class, and like, and when I had our one of our teachers come down because he runs a brewery, and so he talked about the process. He talked about the process of creating his logo, how long that took. He showed he had, God, probably over 200 different variations of from start to finish and how it changed. And I don't think people really understand that. I mean, That's like I was talking to you off air. I was like I was in the process of redoing my logo because I had somebody do a quick one for me and I like it, but I thought it was time for some change, kind of going into this, and I kind of looked at some of the other coaches who have YouTube channels and kind of like I wanted to keep the forest green because I mean I really like that color. It's kind of something that appeals to me. It's calming for me. And then I always go back to the Hawaii Warriors green and black jerseys. Those just look amazing. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's why I tell kids all the time. Like, use sports teams. They've already done all the testing for you. Look at their colors. They've done all the demographic testing on whether this is appealing or not, and where these
Right.
going for. And that's what I don't think a lot of people realize. But on top of logos, what else do you do for your clients?
Well, here's the thing. If let's say that like we're on a Zoom and you want to record it, and you say, well, it looks it doesn't look good. Am I going to put that on YouTube? Is that really going to get a lot of people watching it? No, I got to catch the eye. So what I tend to do is I go and I put it into various software, come up with an edited version, which hopefully looks professional. Sheffer's podcast, he goes and he carries it over to YouTube. It's one of those things where, um, being able to take those things and make it pleasing to the eye is really what I'm offering. I was actually in radio and TV. I've done a lot of different things. So being in radio and TV, I understand the audio side of things. It needs to sound good. Video, it needs to look good. So adding some almost like broadcast graphics, quality graphics, helps to be more pleasing to the eye. So, plus you're going to get your branding out there. You're going to get the logo. Yeah. In so many times, I think guys they're afraid to do a podcast. Well, I sound weird. Well, I don't sound great. I have a face made for radio and a voice made for something in a haunted house is what I always tell people. But I still am going to do it because I need to be able to share what I know and what I can do for other people because that's what matters to me. And so, that's really what we do. We are going to go ahead and make it more pleasing to the eye. I would like to get into, and people are so many families today. And I'll just say this: they get contacted by recruiting services, and they kind of get sucked into that. I'd like to go into where helping kids out with doing professional looking highlight films because it matters. It does. The quality of everything. They'll say, well, I don't really have time or I don't know what I'm doing. Some coaches are better with marketing their players. I hate to even use that word, but college coaches come in, they say this, they say that, or they're sending film out, but there's not a whole lot to go with it. And that's not a knock. Some coaches are better at that than others. But families need to have the opportunity to have those services if they need them, and it shouldn't cost them as much as what some of these services offer. I'm looking to hopefully make some partnerships here and help kids and help coaches because coaches oftentimes you don't have a guy on your staff, especially if you have a small staff that is in with the recruiting. I know a lot of different coaches as well, so it's a nice network. That's probably the next step in what I'm trying to build here is actually look at possibly networking in that direction as well, just helping families to be able to build really good recruiting videos that they can send out to coaches and then helping them build a brand because that's the world we live in now. I mean, it sounds crazy that a high school kid has to build a brand for himself, but sometimes that's the case. Sometimes that's the case, and that's not a knock on coaches. It's just the way that this world has gone as far as recruiting, and so I guess really what I'm trying to say is I can offer various services to a lot of different people in athletics, whether you're a student athlete, a mom, you're a parent, you're a coach. We can do just about anything. We can customize things for you to get your name out there and build your brand.
I agree 100%. And a lot of times, my experience, especially those schools that are small, like, and you know a lot of them, especially here in Ohio, the ones that are in the middle of nowhere. I mean, outside those Division 3 and Division 2 coaches, those D1 coaches have no idea the schools exist, and some of those D2 schools have no idea those kids that school exists,
Right.
or
Right.
or have no desire to head over there because it's in the middle of nowhere and it's completely out of their way. And
Hmm.
or it's that program that even though they're bigger, that have been horrible forever. It's harder to get colleges to come in there and recruit them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and so you have to be able to market yourself, and coaches have to be able to market their kids. And like, I've been places where the head coach or other people on staff don't know any college coaches,
Right.
and it's kind of you got to make sell your brand and get stuff out there. And that's been one of the benefits of doing all this stuff is I've been able to meet a lot of college coaches. So if I have somebody, I can be like, okay, who can I reach out? What level does he apply to? Is he if he's a D2 kid? I have a bunch of D2s now. I got buddies in that field, D3s, and I mean you just gotta be aware of stuff like that. So if coaches want to get a hold of coach regarding his business, want to maybe talk to him about some editing or some logo designs or anything else branding wise, Coach's Twitter and his email will be both in the bio below. But now we're going to kind of shift to offense because, like I said, I mean, we still are going to talk some ball. And I know Coach hasn't really paid attention to any football. At the time of this recording, the Bengals are down 17-0 at halftime to the Ravens. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm not going to as a Bengals fan who suffered for 29 years. We're just going to ignore that little factor as well. But we're going to talk actual some offense because you were an offensive coordinator. You were a running backs coach for a portion of your career. Unfortunately, you had to take some time off this year due to health
Yeah.
reasons. Um,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunate, but luckily you have kind of gotten past that. And of course, my mother is trying to call me as we're doing this. The irony of life. I'll call her back later. She's probably going to yell at me. But yeah, but let's go back. I mean, how long were you an offense coordinator? Let's start there.
Well, I was I was the eye in the sky and the running game coordinator for 3 years, and then my last coaching job was at Notre Dame Cathedral Latin up here near in Northeast Ohio, near Chardon, Ohio, and um, so I was pretty much offensive coordinator for 3 years with head coach Andrew Mooney. Um, Coach Mooney he came out of the Ohio Bobcats system with Frank Solich, and he had been there for a couple years as a grad assistant, and so that was the basis of what he was running. He also he was been in New Mexico State as well. So
Okay.
the thing that was interesting for me is, and I'll kind of rewind here, I started at Ohio State as a student assistant. So that was back in the days of the eye. And then Walt Harris came in and kind of changed things up with a little bit more of a pro look. And so I learned a lot in that period of time. And then the game suddenly went spread. We were watching Northwestern kind of do that when I was at Ohio State, and then it went like it seemed like everybody started to go spread then, and so when I took 15 years off, and then came because of married, had kids, and I wanted to be able to spend time with them as young kids, and I came back into a wing T school where I volunteered, Riverview in Warsaw in Coshocton County. And so I learned a little bit of wing T, and then a friend of mine said, "Hey, if you're looking to really coach big time, you got to go to Northeast Ohio. That's where the good football is at." And I said, "Okay, hey, there's a job open for a running backs coach at a place called Crestwood in Manaway, Ohio." So they told me it was near Akron. It's not near Akron. It's like 40 minutes away.
Yeah, you were light.
So I drive up and I'm going and I'm like cursing my buddy out, and I'm thinking this is a lost cause. But I met Pete Thompson, who's now the coach at Streetsboro, who I believe had back-to-back undefeated seasons. And he needed a running backs coach, and I said I needed something more because of my background. And so he was kind enough to say, "Hey, you can be run game coordinator, and I'll have you up in the box." So that's what happened. 3 of the best years in the history of Crestwood football happened. Of course, we had some real studs. That always
It helps, coach.
when you're a D4 team and you got some studs, but we developed an offense that was multiple formations, and it was spread, and we were hurry up, no huddle. We were warp speed, man. It's like that ball got down, hand was down, boom, and we were going, and teams didn't know how to handle or the speed that we were going. But the other thing that they couldn't handle was we had base formations, but we had so many tags. It was causing people fits. You're familiar with. Everyone gets together in Columbus and in the state of Ohio for the coaches clinic.
Yeah, it's the best coaches clinic in the country, and I know most of the Texas people argue with me, but they can shove it because it's my show, and I generally believe it. So deal with it.
Well, make a long story short, there was some time for some refreshment, and a coach in our conference came over and started poking his finger into my chest and saying, "You made my life hell for a week."
That's funny.
And I said, What are you talking about? He goes, 55 formations. And I just lost it. And I thought he was going to punch me in the face, because I just lost it, because it wasn't 55 formations. It was our base formations with all these different tags. And then their head coach says, "Hey, how did you do that?" And I'm like, "I'm not sharing that with you," because that's it's one of those things that you just don't share it.
Yeah.
But and so I picked up a lot on that. We were big on, and then I learned a lot at NDCL with using personnel packages. So I was able to be JV coach, JV coach, do my own thing on a Saturday. And there was some, definitely some hybrid. There was some old Crestwood Red Devil stuff and some NDCL Lion stuff. And I kind of went on my own. I mean, we'd run, one night we ran 9 dudes all on the line. And then they go into shift. I mean, it's like I'm at Canada all of a sudden. I'm like shifting here and shifting there. But for me, when I think of offense, I think offense needs to be fun.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, from week to week, you want to show a wrinkle. You want to do something different. And when you get up, play around with it. There's times we were up 3 touchdowns and we would just come up with stuff on the fly. I'm up in the box. I'm suggesting this formation and let's do this. And you can do that whenever you're good and you're up. But one of my favorite stories from a Saturday was, in fact, it was the first Saturday JV that I had. I drew something up real quick called load. Now, what load is, and I'm gonna suck some people in here. Everybody says, well, people go 5 wide, but what about 5 wide to one side? What about 5 wide with a tackle over? Now, you show that to a varsity coach and they freak, but if you show it to a junior varsity coach, immediately the whistle's gonna blow. There's a timeout, and I remember hearing across the way, "What is that? Is that even legal?" And that's the stuff that, I hate to say it, being a prick, people always think that defensive coordinators are the ones that are always like the meanest, baddest. I would like to think that, my offense, I can't wait to get back into football because I've had more time to study, and I feel like I'm a little bit more dangerous, not to steal that from Baker Mayfield, but because I've had that time to step away, cross off what I know doesn't work, which a lot of coaches don't have. A lot of times they're stubborn to take things out. So I'm looking forward to getting back in, because I think that I'm actually better having a year off, being rested. My offense, it's evolved, but it's got a little bit of everything. You'd see a little bit of, being multiple, I think is important. But because everyone's spread, you still got to have the power element. And as a running backs coach, if I'm across from you, your defensive coordinator, you best understand we're going to run the ball and we're going to be physical first and foremost, and then we're going to frustrate you with the pass and get you in conflict. And I love using running backs against linebackers, one-on-ones. You see it in the NFL, you see it in college football. There's no need to think that it doesn't work at the high school level. Put your your linebacker against my stud running back, put him in the pass game, and he eats you alive. And I'm not going to apologize for it. You want to come up and poke me in the chest like the dude did at the clinic, that's okay. We can go and talk about it, but it's kind of a no mercy situation. I'm a competitor, and I just love putting kids in situations where they can win. And that's the thing that I've been able to enjoy. 6 years, 4 years in the playoffs. It's tough to make the playoffs in Ohio. It is.
Not except for this year, but yeah.
Yeah, except for this year, but it's different.
Yeah. So. I kind of want to go back some because, we obviously talked before, and I mentioned on Coach Shepard's, the last one I was on that hasn't been released yet, about the Wing T podcast that me and a buddy of mine are starting. When you mentioned you were in a Wing T for a couple of years, what was your primary series that you guys ran? Everybody's a little different with the Wing T, so.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you this. We would run, I guess you want to call it, we were in a couple different things. Here's the thing that happened with that was that it was Wing T on its face, but as we went, we kind of changed, some things up. But, I can remember running a lot of, we were running belly. We had a couple of big backs. And,
yeah.
But the problem with that was, and I guess I learned, it was too much. Sometimes you can be too multiple.
Correct.
And trying to do too many things. I think that's what it was. Oftentimes it was a matter of, you can overuse your running back too, which was, one of the things that happened. But, to me, running sweeps, but I don't think you can go wrong running sweeps. I don't care what you're doing, spread, Wing T, whatever. And I was a big advocate for that because we had a kid who was one of the top track athletes in the state, and I'm like, get him out on the edge. We get some mean dudes out there that can block, and let's go. If we can't run it between tackles, then you got to go and you got to look outside. So I'm married to whatever works to help us win. I think that's one thing that the Wing T gets a bad rep because of that. I think that good coaches understand the flexibility that comes with that system. Others, they're pretty predictable. And we were pretty predictable that first year. And so I learned a lot of what to do and what not to do. But, I don't know. We ran so many different things. The one thing I can tell you is that I learned that we just tried to do too much. Our kids were confused a lot. I just felt like we tried to just do way too much.
Well, I agree a lot because that's why I asked series, because there's so many plays in the Wing T that if you try to do all of them, you have problems. It just gets too much. What personnel do you have this year, and what can you be good at? That's the question.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a specific clientele this year, and a couple of them are going to graduate, and we'll still be some sort of Wing T. We go gun in under center, but I think our primary play is probably going to change after this year because we lose our fullback, who's pretty dang good. And then we'll probably be stronger at wing next year. So or halfback, however you want to look at it. So how are we going to adjust our run game? Down and belly might not be our two best plays next year. It might be more buck sweep and jet sweep next year. And I agree with you 100%. Hit the alley, because I think the hardest thing to defend in high school football is the alley.
Well, we were at a D4. It was a D4, or if I remember correctly. Um, and my question was, why aren't we out? Why aren't we getting outside? But our schedule didn't do us any favors as well. I mean, trying to go anything between the tackles, if this wasn't going to work. And I think that's one of those things where, um, you know, coaches get so locked in on what I know. And I think that let me just say, as a rule for me, I have different binders, and I will take out 20% every year and replace it. So I keep the old stuff. I keep my binders, but whenever I go and create a binder on a 5-year rotation, I take out 20% of the offensive stuff and replace it with something that's new, and 10% of that of the total is actually stuff that I see from other schools. Then ask the question, can you do this? But I try to be creative, for myself. So the other 10%. But then again, you're talking to a guy who has the Waffle House menu out for JV, and there's stuff on both sides. Because the other thing is, I had kids that they again, I just use, and it's using a system. That's what I should really talk about, is that it's a base system with tags. And when you teach kids tags, they know where to go, and then they know what to do off of it. And it drives defense is crazy, and it works at any level. I mean, it's just, but
I agree
I just,
100%.
that frustrates me that coaches get so locked in. And I ask guys all the time, how often do you change things? How often do you reinvent things? Reinvent yourself. Up here in Northeast Ohio, a really good example. Kirtland has won championships, and we scrimmaged them when I was at NDCL, and all of a sudden they came out with something different to complement what they were doing before, which was, they go stack eye and just absolutely pummel you. But they started to use some of their speedier guys on the outside and throwing the ball a little bit more. And, people were like, this made him so much better. But I think Tiger Laverde is a guy who, whenever he looked at the bigger picture, he knew he had to.
Yeah, Tiger.
He knew he had to.
Tiger's. I mean, I don't know how well you know Tiger, but Tiger's a good dude, and I've heard him speak up times. I've talked to him like privately, like once. I mean, he's very smart and well aware of this, how he needs to adapt based off his kids and what he's seeing.
Yeah, and it's funny. Mogador's kind of, in some ways, done the same thing. They got turf on their field, and I thought the next thing that Coach Adorni over there is going to do is he's going to start bringing those guys that I see on the basketball court, because they play football as well. There is no soccer there. That's why they get all those boys in the fall. And I'm thinking, he's going to start going vertical. Before, he would lull you to sleep and then hit you deep. Now, will he change things up? Probably not fully, but he is gonna, he's doing some different things, and good coaches, that's what you got to do. But my rule is every year, a fifth, 20%, it's out, and then new stuff comes in. So that's why I'm excited. I've got more than, to tell you the truth, I cut out half of what I used to have, and I have new stuff. So I can't wait to get back in, hopefully be a coordinator somewhere. And, I'm just looking forward to getting back into it. But, again, offense is, to me, it should be fun. And I said it earlier, if you're going to be the same as someone, you better have dudes that are better than their dudes. If you want to do something different, then you can't. That's great. I think that's the way to go. You don't want to be married to just one thing. You have to be married to whatever is going to bring you success based on your personnel. And how well can you teach it? How well can you teach it? How can you get your players? Can you get your players to buy in?
Oh yeah, no, I agree 100%. And before we go though, I do want to ask one question, because you keep talking about I mean, you unfortunately had to take the year off due to health issues. But while you've been off, you've been studying people. Who or what have you been studying the most? Like, what is it? Colleges? Is it high school teams? Who? Just I mean, I'm curious. Like, because I always like to listen, especially as somebody who's a former defensive coordinator, currently special teams, and has kind of moved to the offensive side of the ball. Who other people study and how they study?
Well, here's the thing. The thing that bothers me the most is whenever I see someone put something up and they draw a defense that um, is never the way the defense is going to play. And of course, that looks like a successful offensive play, right? Of
Yes.
course. Well, I'm not going to do that. I am watching more defense than really what I am offense. Every once in a while, if I see something where it creates a conflict, I'm looking for conflict. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm watching more of the defense and seeing, from the NFL to college, high school, um, because what that tells me is how that's being coached. That tells me everything I need to know about how possibly that's being coached. So you want to start there, and then you want to attack that and create conflicts. So I think that's why I'm a better coach. I've been able to watch defenses because it trickles. High school coach has a horrible year. Head coach says, "Go to this clinic, listen to this guy." Well, okay. Chances are he's going to bring back a nugget, and I'm going to see something different in how they play coverage, or So once I know that and how to exploit that, then I can go ahead and that's what I can. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for those conflicts. You know, I'm I love watching offense. Um, as well, but I think that I've gotten more out of watching defense and understanding the different defenses, talking to other coaches about that as well. So, and my video's going out.
Oh, I think that's a perfect. Oh, there we
Now
go.
I'm back.
There we go. A good thing it was towards the end though, Coach. So
Yeah,
no, I get you. So like I said, that's why I wanted to ask that question because
yeah,
again, everybody does it a little differently, and it's always great to find out how other people do it. So is there a way I can improve how I study and learn?
yeah.
Um,
I'm not trying to say that I'm like I'm a offensive genius or anything, but I think that what it comes down to is, um, my philosophy is, again, it's no mercy. It's an attacking style of offense. And so therefore I need to know the defense and the weaknesses, and how to exploit that. I can come up with creative ways of doing that. That's not a problem. I've been around offense enough to understand that, talk to enough guys to understand how you exploit it. But I need to see, what is that defense doing that's going to allow me to do it, and especially if that's going to something that trickles down from a college to a high school program. And it's something we haven't seen before. I want to be a step ahead instead of a step behind. I don't want it to be where we're doing game prep. Hey, I've never seen this before. I want to be able to say, oh, I know what that is, and and that's really how I'm actually reclassifying everything. I will go and say, against this defensive look, here's our five. Here's our five. Got to have these. And that's what I'm trying to do right now is to really categorize. But I have that kind of time right now. Like I said, that year off has been good for me because now I'm able to categorize things by by defense. And so, but if you're struggling and you feel like you're struggling and maybe you got too much, my suggestion is reduce, pay attention to the defense, and you know I think that's where it starts. And if you haven't got a file for all your conference, the teams that you play in conference, and you haven't, maybe you're missing something. Maybe you need to go during the off season and do a different kind of breakdown on that. I'd be happy to share that as well. Any coaches that want to understand my process and what I've gone through, um, hit me up on Twitter, send me an email, and I'd be happy to share what my process has been. Um, let's link up. Let's make each other better.
Coach, I think that's a great place to end it. And again, coaches, if you want to get a hold of Coach, whether it be talk offense some more with him, learn how he breaks down stuff, or you're interested in some branding or marketing or how to edit some of your videos for those of you who are looking to do some of that or any type of other editing, reach out to Coach. The information is below. Coach, thank you again, and stay safe, my friend.